Yes, the first rules petition request to initiate rulemaking in your packet. The petitioner is requesting to reduce the time frame of self-exclusion from 10 years to 1. We have seen previous petitioners request to come off the list early. This petition is a little bit different in that it reduces the time period. The petitioner believes this is necessary as she did not knowingly sign a 10-year ban. Currently, we looked at other states with self-exclusion programs, and they do not allow the individuals to come off the self-exclusion list early or to change their term. There are some policy considerations. RCW 9-46-071 directs the Commission to establish a statewide self-exclusion program. Additionally, commissioners have the discretion to establish the scope, process, and requirements of the self-exclusion program. Staff does not make a recommendation on this request to initiate rulemaking, and we did receive 16 emails in support of the change. They have been provided to the commissioners and will be updated on our website. To summarize, most of the individuals commenting shared concerns regarding individuals who sign up for the self-exclusion still being able to gamble at tribal facilities, loss of business at card rooms, and potential for card rooms to shut down. Moving forward, you can initiate rulemaking or deny the petition in writing. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Okay. Do we start with public comment, or do we start with the petitioner? Oh, I would that presentation. I'm seeing this now. Okay. Yeah. Any questions or discussion from the commissioners?
Yeah, so to that point that I read in the comments about the seemingly two-tiered system, right? About having self-exclusion for non-tribal businesses and not an equivalent for tribal entities. My understanding is that since we have to individually compact with tribes when it comes to gaming, that even if they may not necessarily be in the state self-exclusion program, that many tribal entities do in fact have some equivalent to self-exclusion. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you elaborate more on that, please?
I may defer to our tribal liaison, Julie Lees, but I do know that, like what you said, that is negotiated with in the compacts. No, sorry, that is not correct.
So, if I may, it is. So the tribes. So I'm sorry. One more time about your question.
Sure. The question was just a point of clarification that despite the fact that the relationship between the commission and tribes is not the same, right? It's not a regulatory relationship. These are nations that we compact with. Mm-hmm. That even if they're not necessarily under the regulatory umbrella of the self-exclusion program, that my understanding is that even if they might be different, because these are individual compacts for each individual tribe, that it's fairly normal for an Indian tribe that engages in gaming to have some equivalent to a self-exclusion program. Is that correct? And if so, can you elaborate more on that, please?
Yes, and so it is, as sovereign nations, they can choose to set up their own self-exclusion program. And we do, so also, I do want to point out RCW 946-071, which does set out the requirement for the state to initiate a statewide self-exclusion program, starting with the house bank card rooms. That is in statute. With that, there is a section that says that our program also has to have a process for federally recognized Indian tribes that own their own corporations or facilities with Class 3 gaming compacts to voluntarily participate in this statewide self-exclusion program. So even when we went forward and went through the rules process for Chapter 230, 23, all of those rules talk about and participating tribal facilities. So so this statewide program has contemplated, should tribes want to come into this program, they certainly, it's anticipated even in our formats with our registration process.
So there's certainly room to grow as well.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Chair Levy?
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to say about this, and I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but for me personally, I would probably initiate rulemaking, and then, you know, we can always take it back later, but do a little bit more investigation with like mental health counselors, determine what they think. I don't feel like I'm necessarily qualified to decide on this now. You know, maybe ask some more questions and determine if it makes sense to allow people to lower their term, or I don't know how you want to call it, or not. But that's just kind of my opinion on it.
Thank you, Chair Levy. Anyone else with any questions for commission staff? All right, then we will move on to public comment. Oh, sorry.
Can you tell me how many people we currently have on the self-exclusion list in Washington State?
You know, a couple months ago, we had, I believe when Tony reported, we had just over 1,000, and Tony provided that comment, that presentation last month, and we had just a little.
1,000 total statewide?
Yeah. Vice Chair, you may want to see if the petitioner is here and would like to speak as well.
So before we move on to public comment, I'd like to ask if the petitioner is here and would like to speak on their petition.
Yes, I am present. I would just like to start off by saying thank you for your time, and thank you for considering the amendment. I personally set forth to have my personal record changed from 10 years to 1 year, since at the time of signing the document, I really wasn't fully aware of what it was. And also, I think it's just sort of an acknowledgement that situations are always evolving and changing, and that I don't think we expect an individual who is participating in these games to start off with an issue. So likewise, just like you can develop one, I think you can work through the problems that you found yourself in, that led you to even like signing the self-ban. And so yeah, I think for me personally, I would honestly didn't realize I was going to be in a room full of people today. I thought it was going to be a one-on-one meeting with the commissioner, but yeah, just thank you for considering this.
Ms. Casa, can you tell us more about, you said in your email, which is part of the commission materials this morning, that the self-exclusion was presented to you in an aggressive manner. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I was presented with the document by a individual that I know, someone in my personal life, and them and the floor were just sort of like, yeah, just do it. Come on, just hurry up, you know. And I was like, okay, I don't want to cause a scene right now. It seems like things were kind of getting heated. You know, and I've seen situations where like police have been involved at these events. You know, it's not uncommon for people to get upset and for things to go left. And so I just signed it and I was like, okay, let's just leave as, you know, as soon as possible. I thought it was a 1-year ban. This is back in 2023. I attempted to go back for an event at the tail end of 2024. And then I realized, or was informed, no, you are still not allowed on these premises. And that's when I realized it was a 10-year instead of a 1-year.
Sure. Commissioner Charles has another question.
It's my understanding that when you sign these self-exclusion forms that you have to sign like 11 different times on there. Can you tell me a little bit more about that process of actually signing up?
Yes, and there is a self-exclusion form on the website too, if you want to take a look at what it all entails. But yes, there are several fields that an individual has to initial and sign before acknowledging that they understand what they are signing for.
All right. With that, we will take a vote on this petition. Is there anyone who would like, or any commissioner who would like to make a motion?
Yes, Vice Chair. Vice Chair, I move to deny the request because it is flagrantly not in keeping with the statutory and regulatory intent behind the self-exclusion program.
Is there a second?
I think I'd like to second. And mainly because it feels really clear from the self-exclusion policy what it is attempting to achieve. And I think when you've signed on to this, unless there's some other proof that you were like forced to do it without being asked to do it, I just don't see that this is the right action at this time to change this policy. So I'd second it.
Can I give comment before we call for a vote? Before I call for a vote? Okay.
May I speak to the motion?
What?
Oh, may I speak to the motion, Commissioner?
Sure.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I've read the comments. I definitely appreciate whenever people are interested in influencing the government, and I'm absolutely sympathetic to small business, owning one myself. But fundamentally, this decision for me is about what our role is as a commission. The profitability of business, the economic viability of business models is not within our scope and our purview. Our responsibility is authorized under the state's Gambling Act to keep gambling safe and recreational. And the entire purpose of the self-exclusion program as set up through the commission, authorized by RCW, is when people recognize that they have an addiction, when they have identified themselves as having a problem, this is something that they voluntarily set up to do. And the idea of having a take backsies when you've identified that you have an addiction purely for the basis of profit, I think is wrong. I think that is completely contrary to the public health reason behind this program. And I am just frankly kind of speechless about that. While I'm certainly interested, as Chair Levy pointed out, about I'm always interested in best practices and science and in studying the other states if there's a different approach. I think putting the interest of business ahead of a public health established need when someone has clearly self-identified as having an addiction, I think the needs of people to get the help they need come before the profitability of any business. And for that, I cannot in good conscience devote staff time, especially if our funds are being raided by the general fund, potentially, to condone staff time, commission resources, and risking the public health of self-identified addicts purely so a business can make more money. So with that, I cannot support this.
Before I call for a vote, the one comment I would like to make is that as these petitions have come up, so I will note that these rules are not very old. They're 3 or at the worst 4 years old. But as these petitions have come up, we have been consistent in stating that the rules will not be changed at this point. And our rules with not allowing people to come off or to amend the length of time of their self-exclusion is consistent with what is being done in other states as well. So we are certainly not an outlier here. These rules were developed after a full rulemaking process with input and outreach to stakeholders, including the Evergreen Council on Problem Gambling, House Bank Card Rooms, and tribes. And I'm not inclined to make any changes at this time. And so with that, I see the petitioner's hand is up. Okay. Ms. Casa?
Thank you. I just wanted to point out, again, I did not self-voluntarily sign this form. I didn't bring the form. I didn't print it out. It was given to me by someone in my personal life. And I'm very non-confrontational. I was confronted in public. I didn't want to make a scene, and so I just went along with the program and signed something. I was more than willing to say, okay, a year is fine because I don't have a problem. A year is more than okay. But 10 years is really just going to be impactful on my social life. And again, I don't have a issue. I don't have an illness. I'm not addicted to this. I just want to be able to freely roam about in Washington State. And if there's an event that's being held somewhere, I would like to go and support the business. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Casa. With that, we have a pending motion on the floor to deny the petition. And we will take a vote on that motion. So trying to figure out, because the chair normally starts and then she goes to the vice chair. But I guess I will turn to Commissioner Ibsen first.
I'm voting aye to deny, so aye.
And Commissioner Charles?
I'm voting to deny.
Do I go to chair or do I go here?
It
Doesn't matter? Okay. Chair Levy?
Aye.
And I myself am an aye. And with that, the motion passes.